All right. Yeah, we wouldn't want Cello to get friendly with anybody before we had the record going.
Oh yeah, we gotta catch all this for sure.
Rodney told me I'm too quiet on my mic. So while I'm doing that, Rodney and Cello are going to catch up. Although we should probably do an intro for Cello.
Sure.
What
Yeah, yeah, first off, I would say the people have spoken. They need more Gabe. That's what I heard all week
that's
long.
that's what
Give me
everybody
more Gabe.
says. Yeah.
Yeah, so feedback taken, and we turned Gabe up, so hopefully that works out. Also, you'll notice Gabe, no microphone blocking my face.
That's right. Yeah.
back
Yeah,
when
I
we
can
do
see
it.
that.
Let's figure
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So you're saying like this is not the solution? Is this this
It,
is
it was
this might
before,
make
but
this addresses all the problems. It's less visual, but more volume probably.
yeah, that's right.
You got to run it through the leveler, Rodney. We talked about this. The I think Adobe's got something.
We're not there yet. We're not there. I mean, currently, I'm like burning my computer up at my kitchen table at like 10 p.m. to get these things converted over. I'm not built for this.
There's we'll talk about it later, but there's something that I think auto adjust the levels.
Okay.
If that was gonna. For cello, I wore my Star Wars cupcake shirt today. A little
Nice.
R2D2 action.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So we've got Marcelo Artal joining us from Argentina. Um, a giant flipping bird just landed on my windowsill and then flew away. Sorry, it was. I don't know if it was a crow or
That's
what.
gonna mean something,
It
right?
was bigger
That's
than my
gonna
head, just to be clear. But yeah, it was right.
that's gonna mean something, right?
Yeah, I'm sure I'm dead. Like this is probably the last recorded imagery of me.
Something good. I
Baby.
mean,
Normally, I shouldn't say normally. From time to time, there's a giant hawk that lands like just on my way. So I'm on the second floor. So just on the windowsill here, and it'll land right there, and it scares the crap out of me every time.
Hmm.
Every time. I mean, it's a dinosaur, right? Like that flies next to my.
Yeah.
Uh, sorry, I got off track. Cello.
yeah.
So let's see. Cello, Rodney, and I all worked at Indigo, but Cello's all and we're all ex Cargill, so that's fun.
Yeah.
That's very fun.
But Cello, you should talk about what you did as a trader. So you're a trader, I would say, as your root profession. He's also a writer, an award-winning writer.
Yeah. You need, I don't know if you want to cover it here, but I need to
Yeah.
get I need to be able to look up your books and grab one. I always meant to.
Oh, they are not in English, Rodney. It's not gonna be.
No, so Cello, hey, Johnny AI, don't you think we could grab the PDF and dump it into Chat GPT and it would translate it for us in English?
I'm almost sure you can. Yeah, yeah, you can find it in Amazon, and then
Let
you
me,
can do whatever you want with that.
I want to
Yeah.
see if I can remember the plot. So
Go
just to
ahead.
be clear for everybody, Cello's legit. He won. It was the Spanish language sci-fi book of the year award, right?
Second prize, right? I mean,
Oh,
that's not the
second.
first one.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
So Cello was the first loser for the
That's right. That's
and
right.
and so there's like a artifact, which is to say like somebody's hand or something that was in a tomb.
Yeah,
And
yeah, Perón. So this is
yeah, I
great.
remember.
You actually remember everything,
Yeah.
unless you're looking it up right now.
No way he's
I
doing that.
showed my hands. I'm not looking up anything.
Okay.
If you saw my screen, what you'd see is there's a streaming service called Tubi, which we watch because we can watch Lego Masters Australia. Fantastic show to watch with the kids, but there's ads, and I was like, there's got to be some way to give these people money to stop the ads, and there's not.
Mm.
Anyway, I'll still watch it. So not plugging Tubi. Sorry, Cello. I'm not looking up the plot of your book, but oh no, let me give my broken ass version of it, right? So like an artifact like from like a Catholic in a Catholic cathedral, right? Like
Not exactly. It's not a religious
I
thing.
don't know your book's not religious, but isn't that where the thing was? Isn't there was a hand that was stolen and nobody knows how it was stolen or where it went?
Yeah, so it's that's actually true, right? Like
Yeah,
Perón was president.
it's true in the real world. This thing was stolen,
Yeah,
but nobody knows
so
how.
Perón was the most divisive. It's present in the history of Argentina, right? You have those who love Perón, and you have those who hate him, right? It's been like that, like forever, right? When he died, actually, someone broke into the cemetery and they stole their head, their
Stole the head.
No, not the head, the hands.
The hands. Okay.
Nobody knows what really happened there. So yeah, that's why that's the main plot of but it's a sci-fi novel.
Right. So that's the jumping off point.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then it gets weird from there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a secret, it's in the future, and it's a Secret Service agent who goes back in time to avoid whoever that is gonna steal Perron's hands, right? Because he believes that if he does that, he's gonna avoid in the future all the confrontation you have in the society, right? And okay, so it goes from there. I don't know, guys.
It's all right. We don't want to give away the whole plot, but
yeah.
So Cello, after this,
yeah.
send me the name of the book and we'll dump it in, and then people can go.
Well, it's in English. It actually doesn't make sense. It's called in Spanish. It's called Los Santos Conspiradores del Tiempo. So how do I say this in English? It's
I'd say translate it as literal as possible. That's what I want to hear.
I don't know because Santos is the name of the main character, right? Which means saint in English. So it's I don't know the saints of conspiracy in time, something like that.
Okay.
That's actually that's frighteningly close to one of the names we thought we might use for the podcast.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna tell you this: that second prize, right? That second award. So how you call me the least
first loser. First loser.
That's right. So the first loser.
Story of my life.
It's the one that actually the author of the first Terminator won, right?
Oh, okay.
Really?
The one that James Cameron shot back in the day, like in the 80s.
Yeah. So that came out of Argentina, the Terminator story?
No. That's an American author.
So this was the Spanish language science fiction book category.
Yeah.
All right. So Cello, what do you do? Why now? I love you, and obviously Rodney and I like having different folks on the podcast, and but there's a finance side of your life that we haven't broached yet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you've got in 90 seconds. Give me everything you did up until Hedgit.
All right. Okay. So I started in the grain business very young as a merchant in Cargill, just like you guys. That was 10 years of my career. Half of that in the cash grains in Argentina, the other half as an options trader in Geneva, overseeing the global position of options. And I believe my career became like, I'm not an options trader anymore. I would say I'm a price dynamics expert. So I would say in the last 10 years, I was more obsessed on building algorithms to explain price dynamics than actually trading options. That took me to first Indigo, guys. I've been doing that, and then Hedgit. Now I'm working with some other guys as well, some broker here in Argentina doing some other stuff. But I'm a trader. I love price dynamics. I love to explain mathematically how prices move, basically how they behave. Every market is completely different. They have different reasons. And sometimes you can explain it through math. Sometimes you cannot, right? Grains. So the agriculture business is one of those markets that are very difficult to explain, mostly because the price is based on supply, and supply changes all the time because because weather changes all the time, right? And that's very uncertain. math doesn't work there. So you basically cannot foresee, if you will, where prices are going to go, right?
All right. So I'm gonna stop for just a second. So it's worth noting, my commodity background, having been a Cargill, is commodity. So it is both the grains and the energies and currencies to some extent. And Rodney, you're a grains guy,
Corn and bean guy.
corn and bean guy.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
even wheat. Not even wheat.
Not really. I mean,
Not even really wheat. He pretends. But cello uniquely, right? Not just for the network that you and I have, Ronnie, but I think more broadly, I think it's unique to see somebody who's had success in option markets, like in multiple distinct categories. So one of the things Cello and I will occasionally talk about is actually equity volatility, equity options, price dynamics there. And so for me, it's really nice because he knows that he's dealing with somebody that's, coming from the broken world of commodities, so he can translate to me what's going on in the equity market. But we've probably talked about fixed income instruments and stuff like that. And so Cho's got a really unique breadth of understanding. So when he says to us, "Hey, every market's different," like he's lived in every market and knows that they're different. And so I think that's always something in the back of my mind is anytime I have a conversation with him, I know he's bringing that breadth of experience, which is, to be fair, also deep on the option side. But so that's fun. And then, so I said, tell me everything. So I think you came in under 90 seconds. So thank you. I know, huge high pressure situation. And then, and so I should say, I do own a very small amount of Hedgit, which is Cello's company. So, but Cello, do you want to talk a little bit about Hedgit?
Yeah, so Hedgit, you guys work with me, right? So you had, I had this in my mind for more than a decade now. I believe that the value proposal we bring farmers in the pricing tools spectrum is pretty flawed, in the sense that every product we design is designed under the trader mindset, right? Not under the farmer's mindset. And I believe that today with technology, you can come up with something that is simple and more sophisticated that helps farmers trade like traders without the need of understanding complex pricing dynamics. So that's basically what Hedgit is trying to do, right? We're trying to bring farmers sophistication without the complexity, right? Through an app, right? Digital vehicle, and an AI process, which is an algorithm that is linked to the market and is plugging timing, basically.
Well, so I'll talk a little more specifically about it. I think so we always talk about average price as a benchmark, right? Like in terms of just thinking about your performance and do you want to do better than the average? Yeah, everybody wants to do better than average.
Everyone. Yeah.
But we've hammered on, and I don't think we need to beat now, like how difficult it is actually to replicate even an average, right, for a professional trader, let alone somebody's doing 8 billion other things that are part of farming and making pricing decisions. So one of the fascinating things to me is, by using AI as kind of supportive of taking Cello's market knowledge, right? So taking that fundamental option trader and market experience, I'm going to say supporting it or extracting some of those insights using machine learning and artificial intelligence tools. The solution that Cello has is this thing that basically says, hey, if you price at these 5 days over the course of a season, you'll get the average price. And it's not like, price on March 15th, June 27th. It doesn't know ahead of time. So it's looking at all these market factors around momentum and expected volatilities and stuff like that. And so then spits out like, hey, now's the time to sell some grain. And so the idea is it gives you those 5 decision points. And so I think what's really fascinating is, one, it works. So it's within 2 to 5% of the average like
It's got 90% chances of being 2% around, 99% chances of being 5% around.
Okay.
And
so
we are not talking
comfortably
about
within
ball. We
5,
don't care about ball. Yeah.
most of the time within 2. But you know, I mean, I remember for years, like sitting on the desk, the moments we would call somebody to make a decision were generally driven by a report or a mentally convenient market price. Like, oh, we just traded 475, right? And by the way, I got this other thing, so we can get you $5 today, right? It's mentally convenient to make a decision there. And so there's 2 things there. One, it's totally arbitrary, right? Like, right? Mentally convenient is the category. But then the other thing is, like if you're making that phone call as an originator, probably everybody else is making that same phone call to that guy. Like, hey, did you see 475 traded? And so I think one of the big things this tool does is it is not arbitrary at all, right? It's like, hey, this is a moment in the market to make a decision. And so figuring out what those moments are, like it's really difficult. And that I think that's the most elegant piece of what he's got. I would like to put a pause on, we'll come back to the market stuff and talk about some other random shit. So my kids just finished school on Monday.
God, poor kids.
On Monday.
Yeah.
So we're recording this on a Wednesday, on June 25th. So June 23rd was my kid's last day of school. Yesterday, I don't know if it got there, but like the temperature is predicted to be the hottest day in Boston ever.
Oh, really?
What's that?
It was about 41 degrees Celsius, 105 degrees Fahrenheit.
41 Celsius. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
I forgot Cello was on the call. I'm like, why are you coming out in Celsius? Like,
because I don't understand Fahrenheit.
I think more than anything, you should be impressed that I had that locked and loaded.
I'm super impressed and like humbled by your hospitality, Frank.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah.
And I don't know if we actually got there. Like I had one thing telling me it was getting to 100, another one 106. I haven't bothered looking, but I mean it was really flipping out. But so we just dodged the kids being in school in an insanely hot day.
Not air conditioned schools out there.
Hit and miss.
Right.
Yeah. So that happened. But probably the most exciting thing is for my oldest kid, who's going into high school next year, had their first captain's practice today for soccer.
Okay.
And the funny thing for me was I had all this anxiety. So when I played sports, like my dad and I played chess, like growing up, right? So we didn't play catch or anything like that. That's what we did. So he didn't know. I think he wrestled a little bit at some point, but my dad is a giant nerd. Okay, just giant freaking nerd. And so I had no idea what to do when like sports start. Like I remember when I played football in my freshman year, I didn't know where to put pads or anything. Right? I happened to have a buddy that was like, "Oh, hey, let me show." That is a jigsaw puzzle in and of itself. Like figuring all that out.
You're talking football pads.
I'm talking football. Yeah. I don't think they wear pads in soccer. I guess they got shin guards. But yeah, so like I had all this anxiety. She had her first practice and captain's practice, because not officially allowed to practice.
Yeah.
But she's like, everybody's super nice. Like, it was just, so I was a little bit jealous. Like she got to start off that part of her sports career. So that was cool.
And this is new, like she's going to high school or something like that, or
yeah. So freshman this coming fall.
Got it. Yeah.
And just kind of getting into it now. And so they've been playing soccer for I don't know, 4 or 5 years now, but they practice like twice a week, and half the time they're not practicing because it's raining or whatever. And I was like, having to take a step back and think about it. It's crazy because it's like when being removed from high school by 25, 30 years now, looking back, it's a fascinating combination of like serious uptick in seriousness of like, we're practicing 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And you're now putting 10 to 15 hours, if not 20 a week into that thing. And on top of everything else, but also like fun, right? Nobody's getting paid, especially at that age, right? And there's some sort of transition where for some kids, obviously, I mean, I wouldn't have gotten into the college that I did if I hadn't been good at football, right? Like, so there's a point where certain, for obviously for individual kids, it does change from being just fun, but at the same time, like it's just a really cool thing on my mind to think about that transition.
That's awesome. So is your family a soccer family?
Um, no, I mean it's the easiest thing to do out here. Like so, my younger daughter did it for a while, and then she stopped just this year. So she's been doing some swimming. I don't know. She's also a giant nerd. Like she so she is on. I'm just gonna brag about her. So she's on the there's a this is so there's a thing called the Massachusetts Children's Book Awards. So the state of Massachusetts, it's run by I think Salem University runs it, and it's like they basically put out a recommended list. I think it's like 25 books to all the schools, and all the students over the course of the year vote on what book they like best, and then they win awards. So students, librarians, that kind of stuff. So Lucy, my youngest, took it in her head, like, I want to read all of them that there have ever been. Like, and all the nominees, like for the last, I think it started in like the late 80s. I was like, all right. So I start digging around and I can't really find like a full list anywhere. So I happened to find the person at Salem that runs the program. I was like, hey, my kid's looking for it. And so they were like, does she have any interest in being on the committee that picks the books? And I was like, does this kid have an interest being on the, oh my God. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so like Lucy got her summer reading list a week ago, like for 6th grade, and I think she's read all the books already. Like,
wow.
Yeah, it can't keep up.
What do you mean? But so do you mean 25 books per year, going back all the way to the 80s?
Yeah. Yeah. So she hasn't read all those yet. I think she's back. I think she's made it back to like 2011 or 2010, something like that.
But
The
anyways,
older lists are harder to find.
Those are a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of books.
Many books, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree.
So like they meet once a year and have like a reading list, or
yeah, I mean they have a couple. There's like a committee of librarians and professors and stuff, and Lucy, and
awesome.
so this year they let her put her own, like she got this just straight up. She got to pick one of the books that went on the nominee list.
Got it.
So it's pretty cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm gonna be switching connection here, so I may be lost for a second or two.
Yeah, you bet.
1 second.
I got a buddy that is really into soccer hardcore, and he constantly asking me if I watched like the soccer match last night, and it's the most foreign thing in the world. I'm like, no, dude, I don't know that. Apparently right now it's like the big soccer thing, some big soccer thing.
Oh,
in US. Yeah,
CONCACAF
yeah, guys. You don't know that?
Dude,
No,
only
so
from this
those
guy.
Yeah, those are the best teams in the world, man, playing US right now.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
I don't think the European football teams are taking it seriously though. I think they don't care. They are on holidays right now, so it's not, for players, it's not great. I mean, think of it. Think of the NBA, right? Like they tell them, hey guys, once the season is over, you're gonna go to, I don't know, to Europe and play with all this bunch of teams, right? I mean, at a completely different level. So I mean, they are doing it for the money, I guess, but it's not. They are not giving their best, at least for what I've seen so far.
So what's it called? It's the US something?
It's no. It's international. It's
it's CONCACAF something.
Yeah, CONCACAF. It's World League. I don't know. It's I don't know in English. It's
I'll hear more about it later when the Netflix documentary comes out about the
I mean, it's worth noting, like, I am also a giant nerd and have no interest in watching most sports. So like my oldest will be watching like all the highlight clips on YouTube, right, from like the U.S. national women's team or whatever. Like, oh, did you see that? I was like, dude, I don't care. Like, are you playing there? No. Are you? Is there? Do I know any of these people? No, I don't. Then I don't care. Like, I'm sure it was amazing, but like, I've never been a good spectator unless it's people that I know, right?
Right.
Friends or whatever. Um, free agency killed any romanticism that I ever might have had for sports in the U.S.
Yeah, it's
But you
funny.
don't fall.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I've football is kind of my sport. I'm a big football fan, and I used to watch a lot of Sunday football. Now I think because it's on every day now, essentially during the
It's not a
season, and
special.
the Bears are terrible over and over and
You're
over.
a
So
fan?
what's that?
You're a Bear fan running
I
or?
mean, if there's such a thing, yeah, that's the my shirts have a Chicago Bears logo on
Okay,
them.
that's good.
But like really, my Friday Night Lights high school football, man. Like that's one of the greatest things in the world, I think. Just go there and watch people you kind of know, play some football.
See that I could get behind.
Yeah. Plus it's
Um,
like $5 to get in.
yeah,
Unlike the Bears.
shorter
You have to pay
commute. Parking's not as
$250.
bad.
Yeah, to go in and watch them get crushed.
What have you been up to, Cello?
Sports wise, you
No,
mean? Or
just what did you do this weekend?
this weekend? So we had a long weekend as usual in Argentina. I don't
Are they all
know. I
on?
mean, we
There's a
have
lot of
more holidays.
holidays. A lot of
Yeah,
holidays.
than working days out here, man. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
No, it's good. We have family. Uh, I'm having fun down here with the family. The kids are growing very fast. My oldest Lola is in high school already. That's scary, right? It gets scary very fast.
Yeah.
They grow so fast.
Yeah.
Uh, no, but it's good, man. We're doing good here in Argentina. Argentina is going through many changes down here. Politically, I mean, it's the first time in years I haven't seen society, like growing up so fast as they've been doing
Mhm.
lately. Like they understand basic things, like you cannot spend more money than the one you have for a long period of time. I know it sounds very basic, but society didn't understand that, and now they are starting to get it. So I don't know. We are seeing changes. Of course, this is Argentina. We gotta wait. We gotta see actually what's going to happen, right? You never know. But the ex-president, the lady president, is in jail.
Wow.
Yeah, they put her in jail a couple of weeks ago. So big times for Argentina. I
So
don't know.
so talking to Cello about Argentina is always entertaining because he's a hardcore capitalist at the end of the day, right? Like and you
But I don't have an ideology. So I always say this. And what I have is a pragmatical bias, right? It's not ideology. It's not that I subscribe to something because I truly believe in it. I just subscribe to things that I've seen that works most of the time,
I
right?
stand by my statement. Cello's a hardcore capitalist, right? And because and so we should talk. This is a reasonable thing to talk more about. I am also a hardcore capitalist, but when I talk to people about it, especially people that understand kind of my position and more deeply, like they always get a little worried because they're like, well, somebody's going to hear that and think X, Y, and Z about you. And
Yeah.
I think when I talk about capitalism, and Cello, you obviously chime in terms of how you're different. Like, so when I think about capitalism, there's a couple of key pieces of it, but one of them is that markets like tell you the value of things, and like they point you in the direction of like, hey, this is what this is worth, and like trying to make an argument. Like the market thinks what it thinks. It can be used to solve problems, but I also think there's plenty of ways to set up a capital approach to be incredibly problematic. And so, and I'm not unique in these thoughts, right? Like, so in the US, the issue or the focus on quarterly earnings for public companies, it makes it very difficult for those companies to have long-term views and mature approaches to how they're using their money and investing. And it creates, there's thousands of papers on this. This is not a special Gabe view, but I think that's an important piece of it. I'd say the other thing that's really unique being a capitalist, or people might see it that way, is I'm actually a really strong believer in minimum income, universal minimum.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up. Like that's the thing I know about you that didn't jive with, capitalism.
So, yeah, I mean, I think one of the most critical things for society to work is for it to be stable. And so when I think about capitalism and innovation, like those things are happening kind of on the edge of things. And there's a ton of people who don't want to live in that high risk world, or it's just not their thing, right? And so we have all these programs and structures to basically subsidize people to effectively get them up to some sort of minimum income, but it ends up creating. So I've never met, so I know there are exceptions, but I've never met somebody who's getting some sort of major subsidy that likes getting that subsidy.
Right.
Like nobody likes that. Like, that doesn't feel good. And like, because of the way they're structured, there's often ways you can game a system anytime you start to put those rules in place. And so there's a really small group that probably takes advantage of those systems in ways that are ridiculous, but most people don't actually want to be on them, and whatever. So from my view, if you just do a straight up universal minimum income, like you take away all the games, like and probably significantly lower the administration overhead in terms of managing all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you add a ton of stability in the whole place, right? Like, because now people aren't worried about paying for the minimum stuff, right? So I'm not saying we're paying for people to go on a cruise to Alaska or something, but like set up that minimum and then go from there. That is something I believe. I keep waiting for Switzerland to pass it. Like, they've been close a couple times.
Really?
Yeah. And
yeah,
I could be wrong, but
we've talked about this over a couple of beers before for sure. And I don't know. I guess what I go back to is my understanding of America back in the old days, right? Is all those like cowboys, like Rockefeller and JP Morgan and all those guys were able to do the things they did because the government was going to take care of them if they failed, right? Like it was like a huge safety net.
Yeah.
And there's something to that. There's also something to like the innovation you can bring to the world when you're not worried about eating or like feeding your kids tomorrow, right? So I get it. I totally get how that unlocks innovation.
So I don't know, Chella, how do you feel about this stuff?
So the only thing I truly believe in is freedom, right? And all the rest. I mean, there's no, there's no. I don't think there's a truth. It's just you have just things that work better than the others. And so far, capitalism has been the best system we've known. Right?
You're taking the Churchill line. Capitalism's the worst approach.
It's the worst. After all the rest, and I think that's the best definition of it. I
think it's reasonable.
I subscribe 100% to it, because there's no perfection, right?
No.
So I don't know. So again, I believe that the most important thing is freedom, right? And then we can discuss about everything else. But freedom is not something you should discuss about. It's just it should exist, and that's it, right? Be free to do whatever you want. You don't agree with the place, with the ideology you have in the place you're living, just leave. I mean, if you have the freedom of living, just go, right? Freedom is the only important thing to me.
I think it's interesting. So I certainly agree with you that yes, freedom of ideology and freedom of movement makes a lot of sense to me. I do think regulation, the world is too complicated for a complete lack of regulation, right? So the idea
that I agree on that. I agree on that as well. course. I mean, then you have, sometimes I think it's important to understand that what is fairness, right? What is justice, right? Because nature is unfair, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's unfair
totally.
that there's a lion and there's a rat, right? It's just unfair, right? It's just unfair. So I believe in society is exactly the same. That's why regulation sometimes creates a certain balance, right?
Mhm.
So we can live with each other, right? Because we not all of us have the same opportunities, right? We are not born the same. We have different opportunities based on different qualifications because nature is like that. So I agree. Some regulations are good just to even up, right, the field a little bit. I do agree 100% with that. I think it's fair.
I get nervous when freedom is the only thing, right? But yeah,
Yeah. So you know what I mean. I mean, it's not.
I know what you mean. But the 13 people that listen to this podcast
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
I think
It's not
I think it's
freedom.
thousands of people. I'm not sure. We
The
haven't gotten a count.
13,000
I
people.
think by now I believe it's millions. No, so
We're
yeah,
the
I'm
top
not talking about the
podcast.
freedom. Have you ever seen these the Purge movies? That
I haven't seen them, but I'm familiar with the concept.
Yeah, I've seen
I'm not. Yeah. So I'm not talking about that kind of freedom, right? Like you can do whatever you want. But I'm talking about rational freedom, right? Like I mean, you don't have the freedom to hurt anyone. Like there's nothing. Some rational freedom. Like
Right. Well, you can
do
join us
whatever
on
you
our other
want.
podcast where we discuss moral philosophy and where exactly does harming
That's
some
right. Yeah. This is pretty
indirect.
philosophical.
We're also thinking about firing up another podcast where Gabe describes books that he kind of read 20 years ago back to
Like what? Like what?
like your book
Back to
that
the authors.
To kill Mockingbird?
Oh, there's a
That's
lot
one
of
of my
books that I was
favorite books.
supposed to have read.
great book. Yeah. You never
Yeah.
read it? Oh, that's great.
I probably read To Kill a Mockingbird. But definitely, like, by the time I got to be a sophomore in high school, I think I figured out how to not read a book but answer all the questions.
Yeah.
What about Grapes of Wrath? Have you
I
read
never
that
read it.
one?
You never read Grapes of Wrath?
No?
I mean,
I think we were supposed to.
Steinbeck. That's pretty good as well. That's pretty
it's pretty depressing.
Steinbeck is my least favorite
good. It
author.
is impressive. It is, but I think it depicts pretty well what happened in the 1930s, right?
Yeah, we can read lots of ththings about horrible stuff that's happened. Like, man, I am not interested in that in my entertainment at all. Like, man, I can't remember what we said. Like Game of Thrones is a great example. I love sci-fi and fantasy stuff. I like started. I don't know how many Game of Thrones books I read, but at some point I was like, man, these people just do horrible stuff to each other all the time. Like this is just like it's just depressing. Like I'm out.
You get depressed. You get depressed easily. I've
Yeah,
noticed
man,
that.
I'm a lover, not a fighter. What do you want from me? Like I
No,
feel
I
things. I'm
No,
a
that's
modern,
good, man.
you know.
That's good.
Are you saying Grapes of Wrath is like that, Gabe? Is that
Grapes
what
are yeah, it's terrible. Like
Yeah.
I mean, it's about the Dust Bowl and
It's very depressing.
horrible
It's
thing
very
after horrible
depressing.
thing.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's very depressing.
So
Do not
the
read
only
Grapes
thing
of
I
Wrath.
know about Steinbeck is the book The Little Red Pony. And you know this one? This is one that we had to read in school. And it's like 200 pages of a pony that's on its deathbed, but it doesn't die. Like, spoiler alert, I think it dies on the last page of the
Sure.
book. And it was like, I remember in high school being like, if we could have just killed this pony in the first page, I'd be done. I'd already have written the thing. It was the worst book I ever read.
Rodney's Cliff Notes. Little Red Pony. Pony dies. Should have happened faster.
Yeah, I mean, things probably
Essay
happen in
done.
between, but I can't remember what they are.
So Gabe, I mean, okay, give us something cheerful, a cheerful book, something that you love.
A cheerful. Well, okay. Here's one that isn't cheerful, but I found fascinating.
Okay.
So a former boss of mine, Christina Campbell, recommended I read Team of Rivals.
Oh,
And
great.
so
Team of
that's a
Rivals.
Team of Rivals. So it's a book about Abraham Lincoln's cabinet. So it's not about Lincoln, it's about his cabinet. And it is a fascinating piece of history on the US. Like, I mean, and it covered so much stuff that, like, my high school history classes did not cover.
For sure.
And yeah, it was fascinating. And and it wasn't, obviously Lincoln gets shot, right? And he dies.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
I think that's what happened there.
But it's not I don't know, it's not uplifting either, right? It ultimately it is a story, right? And it's intent, and it is nonfiction, but unavoidably there's an editorial, a narrative voice in there. Because there has to be, like, we're talking, and so it's not just a resuscitation of fact. But it
Have you seen Spielberg's movie about Lincoln?
have I seen what?
Yep. Spielberg's movie about Lincoln.
No, but I think it's based on Team of Rivals.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah,
I
so
bet the
movie
book's
is
better.
good. Oh, yeah, most of the times, yeah, that's the case. But
So that's
the movie is pretty good.
Yeah. There's a book called Dungeon Crawler Carl. That one's really funny. I'm not gonna go into the plot, but like that's a sci-fi book that I did not like. Lots of people said it was funny, and I was like, I'm not gonna. I held off on reading it for a long time because I was really skeptical, and I found it very funny.
That's
Dungeon
so
Crawler Carl.
sci-fi or fantasy?
Sci-fi.
Sci-fi. All right. You like Philip Dick?
Not really. I've read a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I you know what I like is Vonnegut. I haven't read his stuff in a while, but I was just telling somebody about God Bless You, Dr. Kevorkian. That's a series of short stories, effectively. That's a good one.
Okay, good. I'm writing down books.
This is
So last time we talked, was it Argentina having crazy inflation, or were you in?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Argentina. Yeah.
Yeah. In the last 100 years, that's the case. So you could have missed with that statement.
Pick a moment.
It's just an ongoing problem. It's always a problem.
No, seriously, I think that the real number, the actual number is in the last 80 years, the average annual inflation is 100%. That's crazy. Yeah, but this guy, so
let's just,
just
to make it concrete. So you're saying every year the value of a dollar or an Argentine peso is you can buy half as much as you could last year.
Yeah, so that's an average, right? So you probably have like 5 years with no inflation, and then you have a year with 2,000 inflation.
But it's not like World War I Germany wheelbarrows full of Deutschmarks or whatever.
Not now, but it used to. Yeah, we had situations like that. Yeah. In the 80s. Yeah. But well, so this new government that started last year, they put in place probably the most serious economic plan I've seen in my life in Argentina. Now inflation is running at 20% a year, which I know for you it's crazy because we have so our monthly vol is the same vol you have in a year, but it's going down, and I think inflation is gonna be out of the image by the end of the year or 1 year from now.
I remember during the election, the guy that won, right? He was running on a platform like he was running on a platform where like he was going to do insane changes, and so like he like got into office, was like, all right, we're going to go do it, and then all of a sudden he learned exactly what that would entail and cause, and so like even though he was starting way over here, he still pushed things a lot further than people have recently in terms of driving real change and fundamental
Yep.
approaches to managing
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. So he's an insane guy. But he's got a great economic cabinet. With serious people doing serious things. Seriously, I mean, what I'm seeing, I never thought I was gonna live in Argentina to see people doing the things right the way they are doing it.
So you don't have any 19-year-olds running the budget down there?
No, we have
Yeah, we apparently thought that was a good idea.
No, man. I mean, we have an awesome cabinet right now. I mean, people that worked in major banks in US. I tell you, so the economic team is amazing. Is amazing. And this guy, the president, is pretty insane. It's an insane guy. I mean, it's not. He's kind of like Trump. I mean, it's kind of a clown. But this one, he knows economy pretty well, right? And he's pretty convinced. He's pretty convinced about what should be done, and he's executing it. So he's not a politician. He's not really a politician. He doesn't know how to I don't know how to basically make policies, but he's got a great team, and he's serious, and he seems not to be corrupt, which is important. I mean, that's a statement. I don't know if you never know, but doesn't seem to be the case. So I don't know. Some things are right in Argentina, or at least are better than they used to be.
Well, I guess just to give people who aren't as deeply familiar with Argentine politics. So when you and I have talked about in the past, there's a cyclicality to the corruption, right? So you generally you'll elect a conservative, fiscally conservative person into office who generally isn't corrupt, and then people get upset because a lot of the subsidies and entitlements go away, and then they hire somebody who's labor focused, and then they do a bunch of entitlements, and that group tends to be more corrupt than the other one.
No, you know what? No, it's not. No,
they're all terrible. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think I ever seen a politician in Argentina who is not corrupt. I mean, there was one when I was very young, back in the 80s. But myself, and I'm 46, I don't think I've ever seen someone who's not corrupt. So it doesn't care. I mean, this is not, in Argentina, it's not two-sided like it is in US. Like you go for a Democrat or you go for a Republican. It's more divided, and you have many parties, and they change all the time, right? But I wouldn't be able to explain exactly how it works. I would say that people for 20 years haven't understood entirely this concept of you can't borrow money all the time and spend, right? There was no concept of productivity at all. And that ended up in massive inflation, right? Because, I mean, you get money until you don't get any money at all, and then you have to print money. And if you print money, that's inflation. And right now they are understanding that's not the way.
All right. I'm going to try to bring us back into ag.
Let's go back to it. Yeah.
So Rodney will occasionally talk about there's a farmer that he knows or a group of farmers, of which I think one of them reasonably well, and they get together at a different farm every year or at some interval.
More regular than that, but yeah.
Okay. So they get together with some frequency at each other's farms, right? So they kind of go around and they go through like their farming operation with that group of peers and like look for feedback and suggestions. And it's a super open discussion and really candid and direct around running your farmer operation. It jumped out at me. I felt like there's a group in Argentina that's really similar to that, where what is it called in Argentina? That group of
CREA. CREA.
That's right.
Oh,
That's right.
CREA.
CREA, or I thought it was ACREA. Is that?
CREA, it was the association of CREA. That organism, it was an organism that would bring everyone together.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore. But these are called CREA groups, right? So these are
So
different
what's a
groups of
CREA group in
farmers.
Argentina?
So it's a CREA group. These are very sophisticated farmers. I would say in Argentina, you gotta have like between 50 to 60,000 farming operations, and these guys are like 3,000. So they are
The top 5% of farmers.
That's right. Yeah, I would say that. So these are the most sophisticated farmers. They are early adopters of technology, and they do that. I've been in one of those. They invited me last year to one in Córdoba, Rio Cuarto, which is one of the main regions. It's like if I told you, I don't know, Illinois in the Corn Belt in US, but this is in Córdoba. Yeah, they are very sophisticated. They talk about many things, agronomic things, and some commercial things as well. That's why I was there. I was presenting Hedgit. Yeah, but we have that. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, it's such a cool concept. I love it. So, Cello, you probably didn't hear, but I have to give a presentation to that group in a few weeks. So Gabe tells me I have to spend 40 hours prepping for that meeting, which I think is right. And I'm gonna do that. But he told me to bring a like a good story to the group. And I don't know, Gabe, are you watching the corn market these days? Do you see what's happening? Do you know? You don't know.
I assume it's drifting
does.
lower. I don't
Cello
know.
does. No, we have stopped drifting and we just crashed through every support
That's
level.
right.
We draw another bloodbath today. So we put in new contract lows, broke through
425. What is it?
425.
2 weeks ago, Roddy, you told me we couldn't go below 425. I swear to God, you were out here telling us it was impossible.
Super hard support. We bounced off 434 5 times here in the last little bit. And then in the last 2 days, just a total bloodbath. Total bloodbath.
Yeah.
What's happening with cattle futures?
I have pulled them up.
Those are going up, right?
Well, so they've been going up. I guess. So was there a news event that drove it, Rodney, or is it just kind of
yeah,
just the crop looks real good?
Yeah. Let me pull up the chart here for you.
Okay. Yeah, and I think you had some defensive buying upon the war. People believing that the war was gonna bring some supportive price action, and then when it ended up, it just people just got out, just freaked out. This is not gonna work. So probably it's overreacting.
Yeah, I hope so. So live cattle's what you're watching there, Gabe?
Well, so I think we cut this off before we stopped recording with the podcast, and we ended up talking a little bit more, and I said that I think one of the things we want to be really respectful of is making sure we weren't asking Kevin to engage in a conversation that given his role and regulations and everything. And so but from my seat, like when I've been talking to folks, and I think we've talked on how high cattle prices are relative to where they've been historically, right? My concern from a fundamental perspective was you've got all this money coming in cattle that's still pushing it up and is driving a non-trivial portion of U.S. corn consumption. And there's a couple things going on. So one, just feels like a overheated market, and so we would expect that to come off. And so when cattle breaks lower, that'll drop consumption on the corn side, right? So make that supply look even better.
Yeah.
Drive price down. On top of that, I'm worried about the macro unemployment hit we'll see this fall, as a lot of those deferred, what do they call it? When they gave people the buyouts in the federal jobs, I think that unemployment is going to start to show up and be kind of painful, and so that may be what really drives capitulation in the cattle market, because people not being comfortable buying those higher cost proteins. Yeah, and so I was curious if I was people lost a lot of money being right. So my timing may be very off. I was curious if we were starting to see that, or if there's something else going on.
I'd say your timing was pretty good. So we were 225. We closed that on the 9th.
That's
So that was
that's the cattle futures.
yeah, cattle
Okay.
futures. And I think we closed at 221 today.
Okay.
So it's off a little bit. I'll tell you, you look at a chart, it's still like a little dip back for sure. But
Yeah. So I guess to reiterate, I don't have positions in any of those markets, and I'm not selling anything.
right.
But I like those are the things on my mind. Kevin asked a question last week, which is there what could drive the market lower, and those are in terms of like a dislocation out of normal corn prices that we've seen the last couple of years. That would be something to me, is if we saw that shift away from the feed needs on the corn side.
Yeah, you also talked about energies being a driver for like a breakout, right? We were asking, hey, what would really lead to this? And it was energy. And I think the day after you said that, crude oil started going up, based on Iran and what
Yeah,
was
and then that
seemed to be
came off.
escalating over there. And it just came off overnight. I mean, absolutely overnight. Oh, yeah,
I'm surprised by the low expected volatility in some of these markets, right? The implied vols, just with everything going on in that geopolitical landscape side of things.
yeah.
I would expect more vol to be priced in. And then did we end up hitting highs in the S&P today? Does anybody know? I know we're getting,
It's close. Yeah, it's close. Yeah.
I mean, as usual, it's a fascinating. I mean, that's the fun thing about the market, right? The market, broadly speaking, is always doing something somewhere.
But corn vol is not that low, right? Where is it? It's like
Dude, we were
22
talking
or so.
last week, and it was
about
like
20.
it was
I think
22.
it's about 22. That's not low.
That's low.
That's low. I would say that. Well, at least for this time of
No,
year.
that's not
For
very
this
low.
time of
I
year,
mean,
dude.
low is closer to 15%.
This is great.
I
We're
tell
gonna
you,
argue about vol. So okay. So cello. So okay. I don't. We should be pulling up a bunch of historical applied vols. I could definitely be wrong. It felt low to me. I feel like at June running into July, I feel like we've seen Dees vol pop up to 24 to 28 in normal years, and it's in that 22 range.
Oh, it's okay. No. So I agree with that concept.
Oh, okay.
But I agree with that concept. But I would say that 20 above 20, I don't think that's a low level. I can bet you we've seen vol at this stage below 20.
I'm not saying it
that
never
would be
happened
low.
before.
Yeah, that's low boundary. That's my point.
Okay.
I think 22. I think 22 is kind of it's a fair vol, right?
And you're talking implied volatility there, Cello?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Cello, as a fellow capitalist, it is what it is, man. Like it's
It is
fair.
what it is, of course. No, definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying yeah. If we
No,
were
my
betting
point
in
is-
January and what vol was going to be today, I would have
Yeah.
expected it to be higher.
Yeah, there's also positive correlation between flat price, between absolute price and implied vol, right? So if you told me that prices, if you told me that prices are at 600 cents per bushel, then I would agree that implied vol should be closer to, I don't know, 28, 30%. But being this low flat price, I think 22%, it's quite decent as a vol.
Tell them why you're laughing, Rodney.
I mean, me and Gabe had an argument, not an argument. I conceded that higher prices implied greater volatility, right? Like that's essentially, and you're saying that you would
I'm saying
expect
that,
more
yeah,
volatility this
yeah.
price.
You don't believe that?
No. I would agree that there is some correlation there in that, like, yeah, the scenarios that tend to drive higher prices in the market tend to result in a higher volatility because it's unknown. It's greater risk around supply, generally speaking. At the same time,
that's exactly right. Yeah.
at the same time, just because we're at a higher price, that does not mean that the vol is going to be any higher. And in fact,
No, no, but it's a consequence. I agree with your concept. But here's the deal. Usually, when prices are higher, there's more uncertainty. That's why prices are higher. You have to take into account that the grains market is a supply based market, right? You agree with that? Like demand, demand is
again, I think what I said
almost
is
the same
nobody
every
goes,
year.
"Oh my God, there's too much corn." Like that doesn't happen. Like
That's exactly right.
yeah,
That's exactly right. Yeah. Well,
yeah. So the panic generally comes in at higher prices, not at lower prices.
that's exactly right. Yeah.
But at the same time, that's like you'll see that more frequent. But I think the critical piece is that people remember that just because the market is higher, that does not mean the volatility will be higher.
No. I agree with that.
There
So
we go.
yeah, it's not no. And so there's a fundamental reason behind, right? But usually, what you see on the screen is because when prices are higher, it's because there are concerns about supply, right? So the
Yeah.
S&D it's tighter basically. So and that's why more uncertainty. That's why implied vol usually is higher. But it's not just because of price. It's not just because of it.
So, so Rodney, with corn taking some licks, or what's the vibe?
Shut off the computer and go to the bar. Essentially, is the vibe I think around here. It's rough, man. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
so as you know, prices didn't get to where anybody wanted in the last few months, right? And what it led to is a bunch of accumulators, right? Which fine, accumulators just crashed through those knockouts essentially today. If we had a ton knockout yesterday, a bunch more knockout today, and if this continues, we'll have a bunch knocked out tomorrow. We're right on the cusp there. So, I mean, we got the crop report on Monday, so they're gonna, get those final acreage numbers is what happens. So I don't know. You kind of sit here and hope that we're taking a bunch of prevent plan on corn or whatever.
Nebraska forgot to plant. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Rodney, what's a B plan? What's a B plan when accumulators unwind? I mean, what do you
Well,
do?
that's what are these the ones that end up pricing at a level even though they knock out, or are those they're
Nah, we're
just
done.
wide open?
Floors are gone. Yeah, I mean, so there are some, but most guys were opting to take that extra premium,
Hmm.
and leave the floor uncovered. I'll tell you, it's hard to say what's going to happen. It feels like a big crop. It also feels like a relatively tight stocks to use ratio right now, right? So it has to be a big crop. What I think is interesting is we're projecting record yields on record acres, which can be tough, I would think, right? I'm not saying that we're going to be tighter than it is, and I think the usage numbers are where we could see some really negative surprises. I totally agree with you on that. That being said, exports are on fire, still continue to be on fire, right? So demand is drawing forward here. Yeah, so what do we do? I mean, there's times when you buy futures and there's times when you sell futures, and I'm not the kind of guy to recommend unsold farmers to buy grain, as we've talked about a lot on this podcast. But I don't. I'm not really telling guys they should be selling this number today. I don't know, Cello. What's Hedgit saying, man?
So yeah, we don't have the crystal ball. We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, what we do is Hedgit focuses on timing, right? And so the algorithm really doesn't care about. So the what it does care about is if the market is going up, it behaves one way, and if the market breaks down like it is doing right now, it behaves the other way around. So if the market is breaking down, it focuses on timing for you to approach the average best way you can, right? And if the market is trending on the higher, what it does, it becomes more patient to flag you timing, right? So it's gonna
Mhm.
wait way more to give you a signal, an alert, sell.
So
Right
it's kind of
now,
hold on. Let's talk a little bit more about that, right? So it it is the rational actor here, where it's telling you it's the classic like bad trader problem where people hold on to losers too long and they get out of winners too quickly. And so unsurprisingly, the AI that's built on Cello's decades of experience is a more systematic approach to that. And so it's saying like, hey, I know the market's down today, like you need to pull the trigger because it's
Yep.
probably not going back up. Like that historically, based on historical data, and I'm guessing that's what it's saying, right? Based on volatilities, historical data, momentum, like you are better off at this point making your sales kind of in even portions because it's probably going to drift. Rare, it would be a pretty significant externality, not impossible, but pretty significant that would drive the market into somewhere higher. Is that?
Yeah. So the way the algo has been developed, and this is the second generation now, it's based on the concept of I would say trade-off, right? Like so we as traders, the best we can expect from our jobs, if we want to do a great job, is to optimize the trade-off between speculating with the market going higher or whatever position you have. But let's say we are farmers, right? The best thing we can do is optimize that trade-off between speculating with the markets going higher and improving margins and hedging risk, right? Those are the two things you have to balance. That's you're juggling all the time with those two variables, and that's the best we can do. And that's how the algo works, right? So when the algo identifies that this market has gas to keep going up, it gets more patient, right? Because you're improving margins, and it's gonna wait a little more to tell you go sell, right? But if the algo doesn't identify the typical higher highs, higher low structure, is going to come out and say, you know what, you got to sell, right? Because you have to protect your margin. And I believe that's the best we can do, right? What I'm trying, every time I'm with a farmer or with anyone who is interested in Hedgit's technology, I tell them that the most important change of mindset you're going to come up with is you're going to forget about selling the highs, right? Spotting the highs.
Discipline.
And you know what? It's unbelievable how many people they look back at how well they traded, how well they sold, and they compare themselves with the higher the highest price, right? Observe. That's crazy.
Well, that's
right.
They
That's
don't
what
want to
you
be the
do
first
at
loser,
at the
Cello.
roulette. No, I know, but they don't stop to think about it, right? Because that's roulette.
It's not an
right?
appropriate benchmark.
No, it's the worst benchmark, but it's also the only actual benchmark, right? Like you talk about average price, we'll argue about average harvest price, average seasonal price, average annual price. Like,
But that's a good point, Rodney. That's a good point because it's interesting how farmers, when they are optimizing the yields, they do take into account average yield of their zone, right, or wherever area they compete with. But they don't do that with prices. They just go and look at the highs, right?
yeah.
And I think it's mostly because of they don't really we traders haven't done the job pretty well at conveying market concepts in a way they understand, right? No, it's true.
No. I think you. I mean, that's a great point, right? If the way we, so picking a different segment, if we look like at a fund, like a hedge fund, right, that's trading equities, they get benchmark against other funds.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously the average index performance. But really what I want to know is compared to other managers, how is your return? Right. Because it could be that you were a loser this year, but you were way less of a loser than everybody else, in which case you're amazing.
Yeah.
And so I think, the ideal comparison then in that context, in the same way of looking at average yields in the area, it's like, I want to see where all my neighbors made decisions, right? How did I compare to everybody else who's in my shoes? How am I doing compared to them? And the problem is down at the coffee shop, everybody's telling you about the high they sold, right? They're not gonna like rare is the guy that'll come out and tell you, yeah, I just made a terrible decision.
Well, not only that, where I think the hardest part about the cash grain business is the complexity, right? So you got futures, basis. If you're talking about trying to figure out my average price, it's actually a weighted average price, which is insanely harder to do than, it's doable, but it's harder to do. Service fees, option, yeah, oh yeah, I bought a $5 put. Oh man, you must be a hero. Yeah, I paid $1.50 for it, right? Like it's just there's just too much information to really aggregate in an easy way to be able to do that stuff,
Yeah. So what I mean when I say we don't do our best to convey the right message to the farmer to explain well what hedging means. Ultimately, this trade-off, optimizing this trade-off between speculating with prices going higher and hedging risk, is that we don't put it in a way they understand, right? So what we do in Hedgit, and it works pretty well, is we split the problem of hedging in, I don't know, call it from planting till harvesting 200 days, right? And every day is a dot in a chart, and there you can see volatility. And then your problem is you got to pick 200 of those points to sell, right? It's not an easy problem to solve, right? But when you put it this way, they start to get it, how difficult it is to actually approximating the average when you have limited time, because the farmers, they cannot be in front of the screen 200 days in a row, right? Trying to approach an average. So they have to make 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, 5 decisions, right? And how do you make those decisions the best way possible, right? When you start to convey the message to them like that, they start to get it, right? Now, the problem we have, we traders, is that we come out with these, awesome names, and now we come, yes, accumulators, and yeah, you're gonna double up, and then you're gonna knock out, and how many crazy names we have out there. It's very stimulating. We love it because we've been in this business for more than 20 years. But these guys, or I would say that more than 90% of these guys don't get it, don't understand it, and they and there's no reason why they should understand, because they do something else, right?
Exactly.
They dedicate themselves to something completely different.
Well,
so I think that's key.
Ronnie, I want to go back to you said, well, what do you pick? Do you pick the seasonal? Do you pick the hard?
Yeah.
So something that's interesting to me is this is one of, if not the only scenario where you're retroactively grading your performance. I've never been in a job where I got to go to the end of the year and tell you what my goals were for the year.
Yep.
Right. Let me tell you what goals I wanted for the year. I'll pick the way you're gonna no, it's before I go into it, I have to figure out how I'm gonna judge it. And I think that's part of the challenge, right? Is nobody wants to do that. And it just because it's hard.
Yeah.
But I think that might be a different framing to think about it. Like let's figure out today how you're going to judge your performance in November next year.
Yeah.
And it may not even be based on price at all.
Maybe.
Right? Like it's probably going to be based on cash flow, right? Return to the business, like something along those lines, and then start to back out of it. That might be a way to frame up that thinking a little bit differently, as opposed to the very painful, let me look back and see how I did. Like, no.
Dude, we need to have an episode just about that. I think we could talk about that for a long time.
Well, but that's very interesting what you said, Gabe, because you know what? Pricing decision shouldn't be only about grades, right? So I don't know. So let's say the interest rate is 4% annually, right? And you believe, and you already harvested, right? And you have your corn, right? You haven't sold it yet, and you believe you're gonna hold to it, right? I don't know. You have a silo, or you're gonna hold it in an elevator, and I ask you, okay, so how much you think corn is going to go up, and you tell me, well, at least 5% a year, that's a dumb decision, right? Just sell your grains, put that money, right, in a bond, right? So there's plenty of decisions like that that could optimize your full equation, your full economic equation. There's a lot of work to be done in that spectrum for farmers, a lot. And I think artificial intelligence is going to help us a lot to come up with models that are going to help farmers improve their margins with these complex decision-making processes.
Dude, I love it. Do you the other thing I love about artificial intelligence is that everybody's always they add a persona to it, right? Personified it. Like you just said, your model is patient when the market's going up and it's like more aggressive when the market's going down. Have you thought about building in like making the algorithm throw their desk across the room when they check markets
This
this
is the
morning and
table
realize all
flipper.
their knockouts happen?
No, I have not, but it's a good idea, man. It's something aggressive, violent.
Yeah.
Just watch out. Next year, you're going to hear about Cello's bean table flipping algo. Like this is, it throws a tantrum when the market gets too low. It throws a tantrum and does nothing.
Hey, we probably should start to wrap this up. Cello, how do farmers interact with you, or how do you make money?
No, so
I'm not asking.
no, yeah.
Do you sell this to farmers? Do you sell this to what?
Yeah, no. So that's a good question. Or so the way I see it, in this business, you have two type of users, right? You have the guys who need to sell the grains, so i.e. farmers. Those are the most frequent users, and then you have the guys who need to buy the grains, right? Originators, so whatever, elevators, exporters, crushers. There's nothing in the agricultural business that is done by one of those only, right? 99% of business happen with them together. So our app, Hedgit, has been made considering both of them, and it's a value proposal for both of them. So what we do, of course, reaching 50,000 farmers, it's way more expensive than reaching out to, I don't know, call it 10 originators at the beginning. So that's what we're doing, right? We are making alliances with many type of originators, right? We work through them. We help them land the concept of the product to farmers. So I'm traveling a lot. I'm going down to farms, right? Explain this to the originators, customers. And I tell you, it's the most of the challenge comes more from originators than from farmers. When you explain this to farmers pretty well, yeah, you laugh because you know about this.
I get it.
That's
Yeah,
experience. Yeah,
Let's
that's
say
experience.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. We have it in Indigo. Yeah. Yeah, that's the case, man. It happens everywhere. That's the way it is. And I believe that it is mostly, there's many reasons, but I believe that mostly is because originators, they have a non-flexible mindset about what farmers do and think, right? And on the other hand, when you reach out to farmers directly and you explain the concept, I would say, so the conversion rate is pretty high. It really it's not, I'm not going to tell you it's 50%, but it goes from 20 to 50% depending on the areas and depending on the sophistication of the guys. So we are a company that we are in survival mode, right? So we are doing our best, and right now we have 4 or 5 channels, these originators that are working with us, and we go bit by bit, right, step by step, reaching out to farmers. But our experiences have been pretty good. I mean, we have guys who have been using the app for 3 crops already, and they are pretty happy with it.
And so just to be clear, Cello's up and running in Argentina.
Yeah, is it in the U.S.?
And so do you want to tell us the originators that offer the app to their farmers today in Argentina?
Yeah, so you're not gonna know them.
No, we're not going to know them. But if somebody in Argentina happens to listen,
I did see
Yeah,
we
so-
had one listener from Argentina. I suspect it might be Cello, but
probably.
Yeah.
But he's going to share the podcast,
Yeah,
and
right.
so then his wife's going to listen, and his kids.
That's right.
Next time I'm gonna use a VPN from US, so you
Yeah.
don't get confused. No, so it's basically two. We have five, right? One of them is a broker. I'm working with them. He's an investor as well. So we are working with Hedgit and some other side projects.
What are their names?
Oh, Valserial. This is Valserial.
Okay.
Then we have one is called Grupo Quemu, which is an big elevator from La Pampa. Another big elevator from La Pampa is called Lartigoyen. Lartigoyen is I would say is one of the biggest grains operation on top 20 in Argentina. Then we have two COPs, right, which are big elevators cooperatives. One is probably the second or third biggest in Argentina. It's called Cooperativa Unión in Córdoba, and the other one is in the north of Buenos Aires. It's called Ascensión. And we may have one big name coming in. I'm not gonna burn it. That's why I'm not gonna say it.
We don't need to cause trouble there.
Yeah, but we may have in the next couple of months with one big name getting.
So I'd also say for those of you who are working with Rodney, if you want Rodney to figure out to get access, like there's nobody in the U.S. using this right now. If that sounds interesting to you, you should reach out to Rodney and have a talk about it.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, you could do this in the U.S., right?
Yeah, we need money, of course. I mean, you need to invest, right. But I would say it's fairly cheap and fast and easy to be done in a couple of months. For someone who's got the capital, it's not prohibited.
So if you're a U.S. farmer and you're interested in this Hedgit product based on what we talked today, you should call your grain buyer or some commercial.
I would say they should let you know, Rodney, and then
let me know.
Go from there. Yeah.
Good.
Rodney, it's you, man. It's you.
Cool.
Just call Rodney. 080.
Oh man. Okay. So I know you're trying to wrap up, Rodney. What should people be thinking about in the market right now?
I mean, I hate to say it, you should always be paying attention to the market. But actually, the guys I've talked to today, I said, just stop paying attention to the market. We've like just for a few days, right? The report is the next thing that's going to matter. That's on Monday. My guess is it's either going to be the wildest day we've had in 6 months, or it's going to be a complete like yawner, right? That's like kind of typical. And then we got 4th of July coming up. Usually that week, like June 30th through the 4th of July, kind of sets the tone for the summer. I don't see a real reason today to like try to get in the way of it, right? Just kind of let it do its thing and, hope we see opportunities down the road.
You're not working any sell stops anywhere, you're telling me.
It's just hard, dude. I know I probably should. The sell stop is 100% locking in a loss today. And I can't make myself do it.
All right.
Cello, any thoughts?
Well, I have no fundamental thoughts for you guys. I mean, the best thing I can tell you is just, don't get greedy, right? And reach that balance and optimize that, again, that trade-off between speculating with the higher market and hedging risk, right? That's the best advice I can give any trader, not only farmers.
So
What's
Rodney,
that? Live cattle.
so this is the Dees live cattle market
Yeah.
weekly.
Yeah.
How's that look to you?
I mean, that looks pretty bullish. I
Yeah.
mean, well, yeah.
I'm just
That looks
look,
like expensive
I'm not a
steak,
technical
man.
guy, so I'm not going to draw like, channels on here or something.
Yeah,
But
right.
I mean, and I did weekly because I was like, again, I'm not day trading this or anything. That's a market that's been down 3 weeks in a row, pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's definitely come off since you've talked about it. And like, would you say that the high chart there, that's like what they call a key, that's pretty classic key reversal, right? Um,
I,
that's probably
Uh,
only on a day chart.
I would say you should find defense between 207 and 204, and then try to check resistance close to 210. Right? That would be the famous
well,
head and
all
shoulder.
right, sure. There's probably yeah. So there's no support resistance numbers in here. Probably around those levels, but I mean I guess I bring this up because let's use that let's just use 204 because it's nice and cleanly on there. I, Again, looking at things that would fundamentally drop corn prices, it's going to be like I think the biggest risk today is a drop in consumption on the cattle market. And this, I'll agree with you. This is by no means does this look like it suddenly is like headed into
Right.
zero or something.
Yeah.
At the same time, if suddenly it starts going lower, because it's so overbought, or because I don't even know that it's overbought because it's so high relative to where it's been historically. Like the momentum when it does turn will be harder,
Yeah.
and it will force out a lot of those new cattle operations. So
Yeah.
I'm not
And like,
saying do something today. I'm just saying like that's another thing to
yeah.
keep an eye on.
Yeah. Dude, someday we should talk about sell stops as a marketing plan because I would say that is the hardest thing to do. Um, I think it's a whole lot easier if we're talking record prices, right? If corn was
It's
seven
always easier to
dollars and you
sell at
showed me
profitable
that
levels.
chart,
Yeah,
yeah, I'd say
dude.
yeah,
Yeah, this is
sell
a
stop definitely.
terrible like it's like gallows humor, right? When we're laughing about it. Like it's terrible.
Yeah.
I'm frightened to open up what the U of I farm doc has on profitability right now.
Oh,
Yeah, it's terrible. Um, but like I think the important thing is to remember is it can get worse.
yeah, it certainly can.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
anyway, okay. On that huge positive note, I'm 2 days into the summer. I know you guys. Ronnie's been in the summer for like a month and a half. I'm
Like
2 days
almost
into
over.
summer,
Yeah.
so yeah. I don't know, man. All right. Well, so Chillo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
I've
for
enjoyed
inviting me.
the discussion as always, and yeah. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we have you back sometime.
Yeah.
Okay, but my pleasure, man. It's always a pleasure to share a chat with you guys. Sharp people.
I don't know about that.
Rodney's. We got to get somebody else on so he can actually mean it when he says it next time.
No,
Two
I'm
guests.
meaning it. I'm meaning it. Oh, thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
It's always a pleasure.